The House will come to order. Representative Evans will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schiebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Armagost, Bacon, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Representative Bockenfeld,
Excused.
Basenecker, Bottoms, Bradfield, Bradley, Brown, Catlin, Doherty, DeGraff, Degree Kennedy, Dixon, Representative Dixon,
Excused.
Duran, Rep. English is excused. Epps, Evans, Frizzell, Froelich, Garcia, Rep. Garcia,
Excused.
Gonzalez Gutierrez, Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez,
Excused.
Hamrick, Hartsook, Herod, Rep. Herod,
Excused.
Holtorf, Judah, Representative Judah,
Excused.
Joseph, Kip, Leader, Rep. Leader,
Excused.
Lindsay, Linstead, Representative Linstead,
Excused.
Luck, Representative Luck,
Excused.
Lukens, Lynch, Mabry, Marshall, Martinez, Morrow,
Excused.
McCormick, McLaughlin, Michelson Janae, Ortiz, Rep. Ortiz,
Excused.
Parenti,
Bless you.
Rep. Parenti. Parenti is excused. Puglisi, Ricks, Representative Ricks,
Excused.
Sharbini, Rep. Sharbini,
Excused.
Sirota, Snyder, Rep. Snyder,
Excused.
Soper, Representative Soper,
Excused.
Story, Taggart, Titone, Valdez A. I got you. Velasco,
Present.
Vigil, Weinberg, Weissman, Wilford, Wilson, Winter, Woodrow is here, Young, and Madam Speaker.
With 54 present, 11 excused, we do have a quorum. I am so excited for my dad joke. Representative Evans.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm very honored to be here this morning because I was actually here this morning at 1:30 a.m. in the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you.
And that got me thinking about how much longer is this going to go? And I hope we don't have to do that again. But then I took hope because when I started thinking about calendars, I realized that even on calendars, well, its days are numbered.
Representative Evans.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Journal of Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you've heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements. Representative Kipp. Representative Armagost. And company.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we have some special guests today for all of us legislators of Northern Colorado. We have folks here from the Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance. The NCLA is a joint public policy arm of the Fort Collins, Loveland, and Greeley Chambers of Commerce with Upstate Colorado Economic Development. Please stand and be, if you guys are in the room, where are they at? They're up there. Oh. Anyone else want to speak?
Representative Weinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you.
Just so everyone knows, the best chamber across the whole state of Colorado is the Loveland Chamber of Commerce. If we could get Loveland Chamber to stand up one more time and be recognized for being the best across the state, thank you very much.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will continue the compliments, but I just want to say this group helps us when we're busy down here legislating, keep in touch with the important interests of our district when we can't. We appreciate that. And I look forward to us working together to fix a problem that's near and dear to my heart, which is I-25 North sucks. And we are going to work with this group, which will bring the business interests together to further discussion with that adored department in this state and try to come to some resolution about how we can make sure that the roads in northern Colorado are fixed. That is my, it is officially announced that that is my official mission from this point forward, to try to make sure that we reduce deaths, accidents, and delays on that road. Thank you very much for your help in that effort.
Thank you. Representative Doherty.
Hi, members. I just wanted to announce we have guests from the Jefferson County Business Coalition and wanted to say hi to them and thank them for being here. So thank you all so much for coming to the Capitol. It's great to have you here.
Representative Kipp.
Thank you, Energy and Environment members. We will be meeting at 1:30 p.m. today to hear HB 23-1272 over in LSBA. Look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you. Representative Snyder.
Good morning, everyone. House Finance is scheduled to meet upon adjournment to hear one bill, Senate Bill 49. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of a memorial.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of a memorial. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Joint Memorial 005.
Thank you. Do you want to read this?
Sure.
Senate Joint Memorial 5 by Senator Rich, also Representatives Soper and Taggart, memorializing former Senator Tillman M. Bishop.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move for the adoption of SJM 23-005 and request that it be read at length.
Mr. Schiebel, please read our memorial.
Whereas Whereas our respected former colleague Tillman Tilly M. Bishop, a past member of the Colorado General Assembly, departed this life on June 16, 2019. And whereas Senator Bishop was born on January 1st, 1933 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Oliver Frederick Bishop and Lily Mae French. And whereas Senator Bishop earned his bachelor's and master's degree in education at the University of Northern Colorado, and in 1999 received an honorary doctorate from his alma mater. And whereas in 1962, Senator Bishop and Pat Bishop, his wife of 67 years, moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, where he began working at what was then Mesa Junior College. And whereas in 1970, Senator Bishop ran for and was elected to the State House of Representatives, where he served one term as the representative for House District 50 and one term as the representative for House District 55. And whereas, while serving as a state representative, Senator Bishop served as vice chair on the Health, Welfare, and Institutions and Transportation and Highways Committees, and also served on the Appropriations, Labor and Employment Relations, Business Affairs, and House Services Committees. And whereas in 1974, Senator Bishop ran for and was elected to the state Senate, where he served as state senator for Senate District 30 from 1975 to 1982, and Senate District 7 from 1983 to 1998. And whereas while in the Senate, Senator Bishop served as chair of the Transportation, Agriculture, Natural Resources and Energy, and Legislative Audit Committees, and also served on the Appropriations, Local Government, Business Affairs and Labor, and Legislative Council Committees. And whereas in 1992, while serving in the Senate, Senator Bishop worked with members of both parties to establish, by constitutional amendment, the Great Outdoors Colorado program, which uses lottery funds to protect open spaces in Colorado and sponsors legislation concerning water, education, higher education, and many other issues important to his Western Slope district. And whereas in total, Senator Bishop served in the General Assembly for 28 years, including 4 years in the House and 24 years in the Senate, during which he spent 6 years as President Pro Tem, making him the longest-serving legislature in the state's history. And whereas nationally, Senator Bishop served on the Executive Committee of the National Conference of State Legislatures as Colorado's representative, and also sat on the Executive Committee of the Energy Council. And whereas, after his time in the legislature, Senator Bishop served on the University of Colorado Board of Regents, the Colorado Mesa University Board of Trustees, and as a Mesa County Commissioner, and did extensive work with the Grand Junction Lions Club. And whereas Senator Bishop also served with the National Junior College World Series Tournament for many years, the Selection Committee for the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, and the Espinal Scholarship Committee. And whereas, in appreciation of Senator Bishop's 38 years of public service, the Western Colorado Community College Bishop Campus and the Tillman Bishop State Wildlife Area were named after him. And whereas Senator Bishop was preceded in death by his son Barry, and his wife Pat passed away in 2021. And whereas Senator Bishop is survived by his many friends and former colleagues. And whereas Senator Bishop was a devoted public servant who will be remembered for his hard work, dedication, and accomplishments. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 74th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that in the death of Tillman Tilly M. Bishop, the people of the state of Colorado have lost a dedicated public servant and outstanding citizen, and that we, the members of the Colorado General Assembly, do hereby extend our deep and heartfelt sympathy to the members of his family and pay tribute to a man who served his state well and faithfully.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, please be seated. Yesterday, we had a much longer memorial for Senator Bishop in the Senate, as that was the last chamber he served in. But I did save one story that I wanted to share with the House because it was very special and very pertinent. Tilly Bishop was a legend not only in Western Slope politics, but in our great state of Colorado, as you heard in the memorial text. And I got to know him as a freshman at Mesa State College, now Colorado Mesa University. And we formed a friendship, but he was more than a friend. He was my mentor and someone who gave me lots of advice, and one of the reasons why I'm here today. I remember one of my last conversations with Senator Bishop, and I went to his house, and at that point in time, I just won the election to the House, and he said, "Matt, the first thing you need to do is to make sure you have a list of experts within your district. People that you can call on in healthcare, water, energy policy." Because he said there'll be lots of experts at the Capitol, there'll be lots of national groups, lots of people that you can reach out to. But he said having people in your district that you can shoot a text to at a moment's notice to also hear what it's like on the ground. He said that's a game changer for a legislator. And that's advice I have never, ever forgotten, and it's served me well. I was very fortunate to be able to get to know Senator Bishop during his last few years of life. He was truly a great statesman for Colorado.
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's a pleasure to serve with you.
And a pleasure to serve with you.
Tilly Bishop was a friend for a very long time. I met him initially when I owned that company that had rodents above 10,000 feet, and he was very helpful to me at that particular time. When I made a decision to step away from my corporate life and return home to Grand Junction, I stopped to see my mother, who's since passed away, but I stopped to see her, and she asked me to do two things, as mothers only can do. And my mother was very soft-spoken, and her words were always something I paid very close attention. She said, "Rick, I don't know what you're planning to do next, but I want you to make two commitments to me. One commitment is I want you to give back to students what was given to you through your education. So if you haven't considered teaching, I would like you to consider teaching. The second thing was, I want you to give back to the community that you so dearly love. I want you to spend time in public service." I hadn't thought of that at the time, and I knew two people when I returned to Grand Junction that I needed to talk with about that. One was Tilly Bishop. And Tilly was invaluable to me. And Tilly's statement, and the many times I bugged him about this before I ran initially for city council, was, "Rick, I want you to do two things." A little bit different than what they said to Representative Soper. He said, "I want you to take your financial acumen into public service. I want you to make sure you know the numbers inside and out." The second one may cause me problems with my caucus. He said, "I also want you to consider being nonpartisan when you can be nonpartisan, because to get things done, as Tilly did, you've got to be able to work across the aisle." And he stressed that with me over and over and over. I will never forget those words. I will never forget the man. The second person, by the way, that was instrumental in trying to get me to do what I do today, and I'd like to strangle him on some days, is a man by the name of Representative Tim Foster, who was president of Colorado Mesa University. And Tim was here for this memorial yesterday in the Senate. But I will never forget Tilly. He was very special to me, and an amazing, amazing man, and what he did for Western Colorado and Colorado as a whole, I hope we will never forget.
Assistant Minority Leader Puglisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tilly was one of my mentors as well as I was starting out in the political world. I remember anytime he would call me, he'd say, "Rose, we need to go have breakfast at the Village Inn." And I knew I did something that he didn't necessarily agree with. And the first time and if you got a call from Tilly Bishop, like, you showed up. Like, there was no like, "Well, I kind of have a conflict today. I got to take my kids to school." It didn't matter. He expected you would be there. But he gave me some of the greatest advice that I didn't always follow it, but he gave me the greatest advice. And I remember the first time that he asked me to breakfast, he said, "Rose, stop picking a fight with the newspaper." And I was like, "I didn't pick the fight. They picked it with me." And he said, "It doesn't matter." He's like, "Stop picking a fight with the people that buy ink by the barrel. You're never going to win." He's like, "But what you need to do is figure out how to tell the people what's going on." And he's like, "And you can't rely on the newspaper to tell your story." And that was a pivotal moment in my political career to understand that talking to the people is so important and that they hear it from me and not from other people. So I was very saddened when he passed away, and then his wife passed away shortly thereafter, and she had always helped me as well. And so I'm glad that we are doing this memorial today, and really held a very special place in my heart for Tilly Bishop. So thank you.
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We ask for the adoption on SJM 5.
Members, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Memorial 5. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye and 4 excused, the Senate Joint Memorial is adopted. Co-sponsors. We'll get you. Yeah. Please close the machine. Members, we have another announcement. Rep. Holtorf and Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We
Representative Holtorf.
Madam Speaker, I did hear the previous representative's comments, and so I'm working on that at this time. We do have some very, very special guests with us today. And we have young men and women that are international studies students. I'd like to ask them to stand up. They're over here to my right. These gentlemen and ladies study at DU, CSU, CU, Colorado School of Mines, and University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. They come from countries as far away as Libya, Vietnam, Nepal, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. So I just wanted to recognize them and turn it over to Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, welcome to the People's House. It's an honor to have you here today and watching the work that we do, so welcome.
Thank you. Representative McLaughlin.
I'm not compromising with a high podium here. House Education at 1:30 today. We have 4 bills up. 1109 is action only. We have 61, 70, and 4. So we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, our next order of business is third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 217.
Senate Bill 217 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning no longer requiring the fee collected for the background checks for child abuse or neglect to support the costs associated with the appeals process for a person who is found responsible in a confirmed report of child abuse or neglect.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 217 on third reading, final passage.
Members, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 217 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Story, we are voting. Thank you. Please close the machine. With 44 ayes, 17 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 217 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 222.
Senate Bill 222 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning removing co-payment requirement for certain Medicaid services and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 222 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 222 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 44 ayes, 17 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 222 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 225.
Senate Bill 225 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning the use of higher education specialty education services funding for the School of Medicine partnership operating on the campus of Colorado State University.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 225, third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 225 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 1 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 225 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 227.
Senate Bill 227 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning the hourly rate compensation for attorneys who contract with state agencies to provide legal representation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 227 on third reading, final passage.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to come in and state for the record that I think it's sad that we're only paying about $100 to these particular attorneys. They do a lot of great work. That's not even at all comparable, I don't think, to what they could make doing other things. I think this is a distinct role of government that all of us could agree we have the responsibility to cover. And so the fact that we're looking at only paying them $100 an hour, $5 increase every year until we reach $164, at which time inflation will be so great that it won't really matter. These individuals, they need to be able to make a living for their family, and the people that they represent need to have good counsel. And I know from working in the nonprofit space that when you have people who aren't making a living wage, then it makes it very difficult for them to focus in on the work that they need to do. And so I think that we should, in future years, appropriate more money to these individuals so that we can ensure that we have good counsel that's not worried about having 2 or 3 other jobs in order to do this. And for those people who do this work, who are listening, thank you for all of your efforts.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 227 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 59 aye, 2 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 227 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 234.
Senate Bill 234 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning the cessation of advance payment of premiums for state employee family medical leave insurance coverage and in connection therewith, transferring money from the Family Medical Leave Insurance Fund back to the Revenue Loss Restoration Cash Fund.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 234 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 234 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representatives Kipp, Tatone. Please close the machine. With 43 aye, 18 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 234 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 244.
Senate Bill 244 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning updates to language and relevant Colorado statutes related to ensuring technology accessibility to persons with disabilities.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 244, third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 244 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representatives DeGraff, Luck, and Winter. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 15 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 244 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 245.
Senate Bill 245 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning a transfer to the Revenue Loss Restoration Cash Fund.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 245 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 245 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Valdez. Please close the machine. With 44 ayes, 17 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 245 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 246.
Senate Bill 246 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Byrd, concerning transfers to the State Emergency Reserve for the 2023-24 state fiscal year.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 246 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 246 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 59 aye, 2 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 246 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 215.
Senate Bill 215 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning the transfer of money from the State Employee Reserve Fund to the General Fund to fund monthly housing stipends for Department of Corrections staff.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 215 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 215 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Bless you. Representatives Bradley and Vigil. Please close the machine. With 50 aye, 11 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 215 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 218.
Senate Bill 218 by Senators Enzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Burton Bockenfeld, concerning the repeal of the cap of the amount of money the Department of Education may expend on costs incurred in implementing the School Transformation Grant Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 218 on third reading, final passage.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Although I do support this bill, there's something that's missing. And I don't know why the Joint Budget Committee didn't identify this. With the repeal of the grant that supports administrative expenses, where is the target for teacher salaries? Now, I don't mean to poke anybody in the nose, but you might feel a little sting. And it's important that I say this to this body, because I have teachers and superintendents across my district clamoring for help, to help teachers have a living wage. Oftentimes in schools and school districts, what happens? When I was a kid, we had a principal and a superintendent. Now we have a principal, vice principal, second principal to second grade, junior high principal, middle school principal, high school principal, and we're not done yet. We have a superintendent, vice superintendent, second superintendent, the vice superintendent, superintendent's assistant, administrative superintendent, grant superintendent, and every other administrative function you could dream of. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the administrative staff in these schools, in my humble country boy opinion, are bloated like a 400-pound market hog. And I am so frustrated that we do not get behind the teachers. Now, I'm going to vote on this. But I tell you what, do you think that money's going to get down to that teacher in first grade or third grade or junior high that's doing the heavy lifting and has to read the myriad of memos they get from the staff and comply with the infinitum number of policies and procedures that everybody's dreaming up at the administrative level? I cannot help my districts, in my school districts, in my house district, if I can't address the problems that even the superintendents are bringing to me. And I don't believe we've gone far enough. If I had my way, they'd be one that says, repeal the cap, if there even is a cap, if there even is a program for school teachers' salary grant program. And let's put a boatload of money in something, and we've tried this. We tried it when we were going through the amendments. And ladies and gentlemen in this body, I know it's not going to happen today, but I want us to have a revival. I want us to reach out and get to the teacher level and figure out a way where we can assist those school districts in a way. And I don't want to hear there's no money. I'm sick of that. There's so much money sloshing around, it's not even funny. It's just priorities and where you put it. Now, Madam Speaker, I'm going to get off my soapbox and go and vote. But doggone it, people, we have got to start thinking about these real problems and helping. And I mean in real, meaningful, and sizable ways. Thank you for your attention and time, and I apologize if I poked anybody in the nose.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members, I appreciate our colleagues' comments and know that everyone in this body shares his concerns. I will let you know, though, you should be relieved because this bill doesn't address school finance. So the challenges that our good colleague is lifting up will all be addressed in the School Finance Act. So please evaluate this bill on its independent merits, which don't address school finance. Thank you so much.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 218. on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 15 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 218 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 223.
Senate Bill 223 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Bockenfeld, concerning the annual report the Department of Health Care Policy and Financing submits to the Joint Budget Committee concerning the Medicaid provider rate review process.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 223 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 223 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye, 0 no, 4 excused, Senate Bill 223 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 224.
Senate Bill 224 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning policies to be established by the Colorado Commission on Higher Education related to postgraduate student exchange programs.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 224 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 224 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 57 aye, 4 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 224 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 226.
Senate Bill 226 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning extending the Transitional Jobs Program.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 226 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 226 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 49 aye, 12 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 226 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 233.
Senate Bill 233 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning a merit system for county employees who provide employment services that are paid for with federal funds pursuant to the federal Wagner-Pizer Act.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 233 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 233 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 44 ayes, 17 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 233 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 235.
Senate Bill 235 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Bockenfeld, concerning the authority of the Department of Law to use litigation management funds for unanticipated state legal needs.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 235 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 235 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 50 aye, 12 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 235 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 236.
Senate Bill 236 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning the creation of the Electric Vehicle Service Equipment Fund and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 236 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 236 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 ayes, 17 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 236 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 237.
Senate Bill 237 by Senators Kirkmeyer and Bridges, also Representatives Bockenfeld and Byrd, concerning a transfer from the Severance Tax Operational Fund to the Water Plan Implementation Cash Fund.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 237 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 237 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 ayes, 0 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 237 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 238.
Senate Bill 238 by Senators Enzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning authorization to use money in the Small Communities Water and Wastewater Grant Fund to provide the state funds for water projects for which a state match is required to qualify for federal funds for the projects.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 238 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 238 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Madam Majority Leader. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 2 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 238 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 239.
Senate Bill 239 by Senators Enzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Bockenfeld, concerning the transfer of money from the Hazardous Substance Site Response Fund to the Hazardous Substance Response Fund.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move Senate Bill 239 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 239 on third reading. And Representative Holtorf.
Yes, let me let Julie know.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I understand that this was stakeholder discussed, but what frustrates me is an increase in fees. In any agricultural business, this takes a fee from the plant employees. I believe it eliminates that. It increases the licensing fee for the dairy plants by 30%. Oh, we're not on that one yet? Oh, dang. Ma'am, I have to go back. I apologize. I'm out of order. Let me step back for one more bill because I've been tracking this one. Thank you for your consideration, colleagues.
Thank you. Members, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 239 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 47 aye, 15 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 239 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 240.
Senate Bill 240 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Burton Bockenfeld, concerning the fees a dairy plant is required to pay to the Department of Public Health and Environment.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 240 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 240 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed. I'm sorry. Thank you, Representative Holtorf. That is kindness in action. Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Madam Majority Leader. As we go through these bills, this particular bill here caught my attention, and I want to explain why now that I'm in the right place and not getting ahead of myself. And to my colleagues on the right here, I can't blame it on my hip. Not this time. I use that excuse a lot. So there's some things that do concern me about this, and here's the reality in agriculture that everyone needs to know about. Everything we're doing now in production agriculture is costing more money. We have between a 10 and 30% inflationary effect in every one of our expense categories. Think about fuel and energy. Think about the feed cost and the inputs to, in this case, dairy cattle. They eat a lot of alfalfa. Alfalfa costs are at an all-time high. If you know anything about agriculture, you know that alfalfa is between $250 and $350 a ton. There was a time in my life when you could buy a ton of alfalfa for $50. Now that's just one example of the cost of production. I don't want to talk about insurance costs. I don't want to talk about fuel costs. I don't want to talk about labor costs that we have raised by legislation in this chamber. I don't want to talk about any other expense item, but what I do, and I could talk about it for hours. I could go down my expense list in my small business and talk about how everything has gone up 10 to 40%. I could also talk about how now our agricultural lines of credit for our operations have to be increased by 10 to 40% for every business, small, medium, and large, just to operate. That's a conversation that you have to have with your banker, and that becomes a very serious conversation. The smaller you are, the harder those conversations are to get what's called a renewed line of credit to operate. Because in agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, you get paid oftentimes, like in the cow-calf business, when you sell your calves, you get paid one time a year. And then you got to go settle with the banker man. That's real for us. So with this particular bill, here we are at probably one of the worst times economically in agriculture, raising fees. And dairymen are no different than cow-calf operators, except for a few things. They have to work a lot harder. They got to get up a lot early in the morning, and they got to milk the cows twice a day. And they don't have a baby calf to milk that cow like we have out in our ranch. They've got to do it with man or machine. So I have some objection to CDPHE and raising this by, as it says in our books here, right here, this one right here, and everyone's got those on their desk, and they're reading them right along because, as many of us know, these fiscal note explanations and summaries are amazing. The staff that puts these together from Legislative Council, hats off to you, folks. You do a great job. But why in this year, with everything going on in the economy, the general economy, the inflationary forces that we face across the spectrum of every industry, would we as a state body think this is the year we want to raise fees? If anything, this is the year we shouldn't be raising fees. We might say, let's wait till things normalize. We'll figure out a way to get by. But that's not what this bill does, Madam Speaker. That's not what this thing does. It says here, fee impact on dairy producers, and I'm going to read it because I feel compelled to. Colorado law requires legislative service agency review of measures which create or increase any fee collected by a state agency. I understand the review. I don't understand the timing. The 30% increase in licensing fees will generate an additional $7,500 annual in fee revenue, and you know, but it'll repeal the employee licensing fee and reduce fee revenue by $35,000. The new production fee on the 36 dairies will increase fees by about $417,700 per year. Ladies and gentlemen, do a little cowboy math and take the $417,700 and divide it by 36. That's not peanuts. That's every facility having to get out their checkbook and pay that. I'm going to continue reading. Based on prior year production volume of about 5.5 billion pounds of milk, and I understand that it's all about pounds of milk because that's how we measure. Every day they load up the milk truck because you got to move the milk every day. Fresh milk's got to move and be processed and packaged and presented in retail sales in many other areas where people, even in our schools, so we have fresh milk for the school kids. In production agriculture, you're driven by production. The only way that you can survive in production agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, is to produce. So as you produce more and work hard to produce more, like we do in the feedlot business, because it's pounds of beef, we got to raise pounds of beef. The more pounds, the more production, the more production, the more revenue. Think about a fee structure that's tied on your production. You cannot reduce your production to try to reduce your fees. But in this case, we're going to raise those fees. Now, the last sentence, and then I'm going to be done, ma'am. And I appreciate your indulgence, colleagues. This is a serious conversation for my people in rural Colorado. In my district, we have probably more dairies than any other district. In House District 63, along the I-76 corridor. So this is important to me. One producer is estimated to exceed the statutory maximum and have their total fees capped at $150,000. Imagine if you had to pay $150,000 to the state for one fee. Think about the guy that's got to write that check and sign it. I'm one of those guys. And boy, that's a hard one. Thank you for your time. I'll be a no on this. And if there's anything we can do to stop raising fees on production agriculture, the time to do it is 2023. Thank you.
Representative Hartsook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't have any dairy farms in my district, but I do have businesses, and we have schools, and we have kids, because every single person in this chamber has schools and kids in their districts. There's multiple unintended consequences that will be passed out due to this legislation. The one line says it removes a $50 fee, but the next one says it increases the fee by 30%. The other one says creates a new fee. My wife is from ag country, and I remember the story she told me of being on a dairy farm. Now, I've never worked on a dairy farm, but I do know how to milk a cow, and I know it's hard work. I also know that the businesses will pass those costs along. We as a body have talked about putting in, more of the school lunches, and most school lunches have milk that comes along with it. The taxpayers that then are going to be shouldering an additional burden of funding this for the schools. Right now, everybody complains about the price of a carton of eggs. This is going to increase the cost of a gallon of milk. This is going to increase dairy across the board. The businesses keep talking about the increase in fees, the increase in regulations. That doesn't stop with them. That gets passed down to consumers. We are passing legislation that is going to increase the cost, the daily operating cost for a consumer that's out there. Anybody that buys milk, or as of many of us that had the creamer that went in our coffee this morning, it's going to impact everything. The kids in schools, our coffee, businesses, restaurants. We don't need to keep increasing fees when inflation is going up. These things are what affect everyone across the state, not just ag country, but it affects everyone, every household, every business, every consumer. I urge you to vote no. Thank you for your time.
Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise against this. My colleague from Akron brought up all the inflationary issues that we face in production agriculture in rural Colorado. But another thing I want you all to remember is they're just recovering from the COVID pandemic. If you guys remember watching the news at that time, we saw dairy farmers pouring hundreds of thousands of gallons of milk down the drain because the schools were all shut down and they weren't able to push the product. And they're still reeling from that. They've taken a beating from it, and to do this to them makes it even harder. There's so many times we look out for different groups in this chamber, and I think we've tried to help a lot of businesses. We've seen stimulus money go to businesses during COVID, and why wouldn't we want to help these people? These are the people that provide a good, healthy product not only to us, but our children. And they've done it forever, and they do work hard. I'm going to pitch for them. It's a job that probably a lot of people in this chamber, when we're here over a weekend, we complain, or we're here late, we're all tired. But these people, I grew up around some dairy farmers, and these are really good, hardworking people that I just want to remind you, during COVID, you all saw on the news the beating they took. So I think it's hard not to give them that hand up as we give everybody else a hand up throughout these hard times. So I'd urge you please to take a look at this again and really look at the impact and the history on this and what they've been through to try to recover on the pandemic like any other business. So I urge a no vote on this. Thank you.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 240 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote? Votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 34 aye, 28 no, 3 excused, Senate Bill 240 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 242.
Senate Bill 242 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning financial audits of the community corrections programs in the state and in connection therewith making appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 242 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 242 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 49 aye, 13 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 242 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebo, please read the title of Senate Bill 243.
Senate Bill 243 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Burton Bockenfeld, concerning transfers from the General Fund to the Capital Construction Fund.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 243 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 243 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 53 aye, 9 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 243 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebo, please read the title to Senate Bill 197.
Senate Bill 197 by Senators Moreno and Fenberg, also Representatives Duran and Lynch, concerning the payment of the expenses of the Legislative Department.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 197 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 197 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 53 aye, 9 no, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 197 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to move Senate Bill 214 to the end of the third reading calendar.
Senate Bill 214 will be moved to the end of the third reading calendar. Mr. Shebo, please read the title to Senate Bill 219.
Senate Bill 219 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Burton Sirota, concerning services to support students eligible to enroll in facility schools and in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 219 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 219 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Let me share.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 ayes, 0 no, 3 excused, Senate Bill 219 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 221.
Senate Bill 221 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning the funding of the Healthy School Meals for All program and in connection therewith creating the Healthy School Meals for All program general fund exempt account, allowing expenditures in excess of appropriations for the program, clarifying how the program should be accounted for in the annual general appropriations bill, and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 221 on third reading, final passage.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. We brought this legislation forth, I believe it was a year ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. School lunches for all. We talked about how it would be a very expensive program, hundreds of millions of dollars. Many of us were concerned about that increase, hundreds of millions of dollars increase. Some of us voted against that, knowing that we would continue to grow government and grow its expenditures. So I just want to explain why I'm going to vote no. Because here we are looking at that increase, 115 million, and it's looking us right in the face here this year. And every year thereafter, oh, by the way, if we increase the cost of agricultural products and inflation continues to grow by 5, 10+% or more, 10, 20%, 30%, depending on the sector, then this expenditure is going to go up. And the burden on the state budget will go up. So it is $38.5 billion, most assuredly now, will grow next year to a higher amount. That's a concern for me, and it should be a concern for all of us. That's why I'll be a no, Madam Speaker.
Representative Michelson-Jeannet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is simply implementing the will of the voters and will be more milk to buy.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 221 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 aye, 18 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 221 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representatives Velasco and Judah, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 228.
Senate Bill 228 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Bockenfeld, concerning the creation of the Office for Administrative Services for Independent Agencies in the Judicial Department and in connection therewith making and reducing appropriations.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 228 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 228 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 ayes, 17 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 228 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 229.
Senate Bill 229 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning the office of the statewide behavioral health court liaison and in connection therewith making and reducing appropriations.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 229 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 229 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 ayes, 17 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 229 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 231.
Senate Bill 231 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning the ability of the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics in the Department of Labor and Employment to disperse money in the Wage Theft Enforcement Fund to employees after an employer fails to make payments determined to be owed to the employees and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 231 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 231 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 47 ayes, 16 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 231 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebo, please read the title to Senate Bill 230.
Senate Bill 230 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Sirota and Balkenfeld, concerning state assistance to counties affected by the 23rd Judicial District and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 230 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Frizzell.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, I unfortunately did not have the opportunity to speak to this bill yesterday. I was kind of dying inside, but as I listened to the testimony, but I did want to lend my voice to this bill. I stand in support of this bill for a multitude of reasons, one of which is, first, my district is very much impacted as it lies within the almost newly formed Judicial District 23. I've also heard about this as the county commissioners in Douglas County and Arapahoe County specifically were at the table, although, of course, it includes Elbert County and Lincoln counties as well. There was a lot of thought put into the decision to create a new judicial district. At one point, it made a lot of sense to lump together Arapahoe counties, Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln, but that was before Aurora is the amazing city that it is today. It was before Castle Rock grew, before Highlands Ranch was ever even thought of, before Elbert County had a big boom. That was a long time ago. And I'm very grateful that in 2020, this body wisely made the decision to approve the creation of this new district because it makes sense. It's time. It's time. As part of that decision, as part of it, was a commitment to fund the transition. I assure you that all the counties impacted have skin in the game. They do. As with, and I heard yesterday, the money should follow the employees for paid time off. And I am very grateful to the representative from Eastern Arapahoe County for his astute description of the business behind government employee separations, because that's in fact what this is. And the reality is nobody knows at this point what employees are going to land in which districts. We don't know. Those employees might not know. That's a decision that they and their families are going to make when the district is officially formed, once that election has taken place to elect a DA for both of the districts. Those folks will make a decision whether they are going to stay with JD 18 or go with the newly formed JD 23. It may depend on where they live. It may depend on who wins the election. It may depend on lots of things. So we don't know. So that's kind of an unknown. But whatever happens, if those employees decide to leave JD 18, they are separating their employment. They're separating their employment, and they have a right to be paid out any accrued paid time off. That's just what happens. And that's what that money is intended to go for. It simply can't be transferred because they're two separate entities. In talking with one of our Douglas County commissioners about this, because I was trying to understand, and she was able to tell me that originally the transition, there were contractors that were involved, there were consultants that were involved, because this is a big thing. As someone mentioned yesterday, I believe it was the good representative from Aurora, this is uncharted territory. Nobody really knows. We're not used to this. This is not a commonplace event in Colorado. So a lot of things had to be navigated. It is more than a matter of schlepping some banker boxes of files down the road. It's a complex process. This process was originally estimated to cost $10 million. So the amount that we've gotten it, they've gotten it down to is less than half of that, which is pretty great. And I think that all the counties involved really need to be commended for working through some cost savings on that. So, said my piece on this. I don't want to waste anybody's time this morning, but I really feel like it's important that that we all understand that this body made a commitment to these 4 counties in 2020. And I think it's important that we fulfill our obligation and put this, look forward to a new chapter. Thank you very much. I ask for your aye vote on this.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 230 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative DeGraff and Luck. Please close the machine. With 58 aye, 5 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 230 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 216.
Senate Bill 216 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representative Sirota and Bockenfeld, concerning funding to the Department of Early Childhood for the Colorado Universal Preschool Program.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 216 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 216 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 aye, 18 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 216 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 241.
Senate Bill 241 by Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Balkenfeld, concerning the creation of the Office of School Safety and in connection therewith, requiring the Director of the Office of School Safety to appoint a grants manager, creating a crisis response unit within the Office of School Safety, specifying that the Office of School Safety has oversight over the School Safety Resource Center, specifying that the School Access for Emergency Response Grant Program is administered by the Office of School Safety, creating a youth violence grant program administered by the office, and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 241 on third reading, final passage.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, I spoke to this bill talking about school safety and the Office of School Safety offering grants to help with school safety-related programs. Of course, the biggest issue with school safety right now is the mental health crisis we have in Colorado and across this country. A mental health crisis that needs to be the focus if we're going to create this office, which it appears we are, at a $15 million cost and about 20 staff, and sustain it in the out years for $9 million and maintain this up to 20 people in the staff. They need to focus on this issue. But will they? They also need to focus on protecting students. You protect students from gun violence by making sure those SROs, school resource officers, are in those schools. You don't take them out of the schools. You keep them in the schools and you support them. I certainly hope that as we create the Office of School Safety and the Department of Public Safety, and we appoint this director, that person understands this requirement. Although I do have my reservations. As we politicize school safety, the kids are outside screaming for help. In this building, we think taking something away, some piece of metal away, as was described earlier in debate and discussion, is going to solve that problem. Ladies and gentlemen, it will not. And if this director thinks that's politicized, if that's the position and there's going to be bias and political bias in the offering of grants in this school safety office, which I have great fear of in this hypercharged political environment, then I don't want any part of it. Neither do my constituents, nor does House District 63. We're not interested. Now, if, as I described earlier, this Office of School Safety will be objective, unbiased, untainted by politicization of different national agendas that focus on something other than the mental health crisis that we have, and the impact of that on the youth and adults, they exact their violence on others, which comes from evil and a dark place, a mental health crisis that has plunged these people into the darkest place they could go, and thinking taking the life of 9-year-old girls in a school is okay. Innocent children. If it does anything other than that, that $10 million or $15 million will be wasted. But, as I stated earlier, as a rural Colorado representative, it will be objective, thoughtful. Know that one size does not fit all in Colorado. Just go out to Sedgwick County with me, or in my former district, now House District 47, go down to Baca County. Maybe Las Animas County. Maybe the far reaches of Yuma County. If you don't consider those issues and support programs like the FASTER program, and I don't think anybody wants me to go through it again today, that is a rural Colorado solution. And it is our equivalent, ladies and gentlemen, of your SRO program. We don't have the money to fund them. Those school budgets are already strained. They're going through the budgeting right now, and I have superintendents and people on school boards calling me and emailing me saying, we have problems. We aren't going to be able to meet our budgetary requirements. What do we do? Will the state plus up our budgets? Will the budget stabilization factor be changed in a way that helps us? I'm not on the education committee. I'm not an educator, and I'm not an education expert. But those are the things that are being asked. But with respect to this, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand, the FASTER program is our SRO program, and it should not be denied. And people need to understand that. So if we're going to go down this road and we're going to create this department and we're going to fund it with all this money, it better be a program and a department for all of Colorado. Because people in rural Colorado are sick of it. Let's close the rural-urban divide with a little consideration for the people in the far reaches of this state. And I can only speak to eastern Colorado. I'm not qualified to speak to western Colorado, but I'm sure their issues are not much different. And the truth is, you can't travel as fast in the mountains as you can out in the eastern plains when you need to get someplace, because our roads are straight and flat.
Representative Holtorf, I think that's true, but let's stay focused on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I do get distracted from time to time, and I do understand my mind tends to wander. But I'll tell you, I speak from a place that's real, sincere, and it's very important that people in this chamber understand. It doesn't matter what you think about us gun-toting rednecks. Doesn't matter what you think about our firearms. We want to protect our children just as much as anybody else in this state, and we know how to do it. And I'm an advocate for the FASTER program, a big advocate. It's in school districts in my district, and it works. The students feel safer when they know, they don't know who, but they know there are adults there that will protect them in an active shooter situation. And those adults have guns, and they know how to use them. Many of them are military veterans, and they know how to use them. And lives can be saved. Our children's lives can be saved using all the programs, madam. All the programs, Madam Speaker, that are out there. And they all need to be, if we're going to do this big grant program, all the programs need to be objectively, unbiasedly analyzed and supported without this political polarity. Madam Speaker, I struggle with my vote on this because I care about school safety and I think the office will be important. I do care. I care about my kids. My own granddaughter.
Representative Holtorf, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. My own granddaughter goes to school. My daughter calls me and says, I want my daughter to be safe. What can you do? What can you do? what can we do? We can focus on the mental health crisis and try to help with crisis response teams, these kids that are in desperate need, that are lost and misguided in this darkness that has swept our land. So I stand with my representative from Boulder at every turn to address the mental health crisis that finds a place of love and goes to the light and goes away from the darkness that is mental health, where people think the only way out is violence against others. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Hartsook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you in this mighty fine day.
It is an honor to serve with you.
I'm grateful the JBCA yesterday had 4 questions on this bill, and they were answered, so I was thankful for that. Today I want to relate a couple of stories regarding this bill and some of the things that have happened here this week. We've heard the protests, we've seen the demonstrations, we've had them here. We saw when we had to pull a little recess yesterday. What was interesting is after we adjourned and we had to head off to committee assignments, I was gathering up my stuff and I headed on out the door because I was on my way to Education Committee, and there was a father and a daughter that were standing in the back. And as I walked past, I said, good afternoon, sir. And he said, are you a state representative? I said, yes, sir. He goes, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, sure. So I stopped, did a U-turn, turned back around, because I was already walking out the door to get to the committee, which is what my job was supposed to be. And his question was very simple. He said, what are you going to do about this violence? He goes, I'm here with my daughter. And he was from Denver. He's like an assistant pastor at one of the churches. And so I told him, I said, sir, I said, in my opinion, there's nothing that can be legislated in this body that can eliminate anger and violence out there. We cannot eliminate anger and hatred. Laws cannot do that. Only people can. And I told him, I said, it needs to start at the home, the community, the church level, where we sit down and we talk. About month, maybe longer ago now, we had a bunch of students that were here from one of the kid programs, and they, during their Q&A, they asked a very similar question. What are you going to do about legislating away the gun violence? And I gave them the exact same answer. I said, we cannot legislate away hatred and anger. It has to start with discussions. It has to start with a one-on-one where we sit down and we talk. I've spoken, when I actually got to Education yesterday, I spoke with our representative from Denver, and I told her why I was late. And I also told her why I had voted no against her bill. But I said, what I'd like to see is more people sitting down and talking with people that look differently than them so they can understand each other's backgrounds. I learned that when I joined the Army. We all came from different backgrounds, but we learned about each other's backgrounds because we were all going to be fighting side by side.
Representative Hartsook, I want to give you lots of latitude, but let's bring it back to the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We need to solve on this policy here that creates a department is all fine and well, but in the end, what is the metric of success? Is it reducing violence? Is it reducing hatred? Can that be imposed upon people? I don't think so. I think we need to have a discussion about that. Just as an example, I mean, some of the things in this bill where they're talking about pushing down resources. Yesterday at Legend High School, during the nationwide walkout for the protests, there was also a false report that was turned in, but of course at the time nobody knew it was false. So all the police, Parker Police and sheriffs responded because it was posted on social media that there was going to be a shooting at Legend High School. So I started getting text messages asking me what's going on, and of course I didn't know. So I started calling around, and we found out ultimately by the end of the day that it was a hoax, but the police responded to keep all the kids safe, got them back in Legend, put it on lockdown, then got a warrant, searched the house, and found the person that had made the false report. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but law enforcement executed their job. I don't know if in this bill that will be part of what the funding goes to, but as been as alluded earlier, I don't know why someone would call in a false report like that. Is that mental health? Maybe. Is that anger and hatred? Maybe. Is that revenge? Maybe. But in the end, I don't know, and the only way we find out is by sitting down and talking. So even though this bill is pushing money and resources towards the communities, which I believe is absolutely necessary, I'm not a fan of more bureaucracy and legislation where we can pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, we did something, when I really believe that we need to sit down and talk. Not only in this chamber, but back in our districts, in our churches, in our homes, in our schools. We need to sit down with our community members and have that discussion. I think we can take what we have here and go to those communities and those schools and talk about that and share that with them and saying, this is what we're working on up here. These are the discussions we have, and get their feedback and see what they think and feel. I gave my business card to the dad and the daughter that were out here, and I told them, I said, I will come to your church, I will come to your school, I will come to wherever you want me to in your community to talk. I said, this isn't my district. I don't even know whose district he resides in. And I didn't care. He wanted somebody to come talk to him. And I said, albeit, I will drive up from Douglas County and I will talk to you to see what we can do to help in your district, your community to reduce violence. So while I will support 241 here, I do not think it is the end-all, be-all. I don't even know that it's a start, but it pushes resources down. I like pushing resources down, but I would encourage each and every one of us to go into our communities and have those sit-down conversations. Thank you for your time.
Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you all know, I have 2 school-age daughters, and I want them to be protected as well. I have the same fears and worries that every parent in this building has and that every parent in Colorado has. But at the end of the day, we have some philosophical and regional differences on how we look at solving this problem. But I stand up here today in support of this because I'm willing to try to help solve that problem. We have different ways of getting there, and I think that's fine as long as we're on the same path and at the end we have the same common goal. And why I like this, and what I want to make clear is we all live in different areas of the state. We all represent different people with different thoughts, different beliefs, different heritage, and different philosophical needs on how they think that we need to address this problem. Like the representative from Akron said, there are many in my district that look at programs such as FASTER to be able to solve this problem. Because what you have to realize is for most of us, the school where my daughters go to school, the closest sheriff's department is probably after they get the call, the response is at least 45 to 50 minutes. That's why the program has to have variables in it and allow for that. It can't be concrete. It has to look at these regional differences and allow us to protect our children in the way that we seem fit, and one of those programs is FASTER and bullet both ways. And we may not all agree on this, but that's why we all represent different districts. And I think these are places where we can come together but be separate. And I know that that doesn't make sense, but it does, because the end goal is the same. Once again, I will say, I don't always agree how we get here. You all know I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, but this is one place where we can legislate a difference. You all know we can't legislate morality. But I stand here and I look at all my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and I look at that camera and I say, Colorado, I will vote yes on this because I don't only want to protect my children, but I want to protect everybody else's children. And this is one place that we can get together, philosophical differences aside, and put our money where our mouth is. I also know mental health's an issue. And I vowed to work on that, not only with you, but the people in my district. I've signed on to bipartisan legislation that will work on youth mental health in the state of Colorado. So I am proud to stand up here today and say I will vote for this piece of legislation, and we will do our best, even with our differences, to protect our children. Thank you for listening. I urge a aye vote.
Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I spoke at length about this bill yesterday. Rise in full support, and want to thank the bill sponsors for bringing it forward. When the STEM shooting happened and my phone started going through the roof, I was at work and my kids were in lockdown. 3 of my children I could not get to. The STEM shooter's profile picture was on top of my children's school's roof. That was his profile picture, standing on top of the roof that my children go to school. Scary. Scary not to be able to hug your kids and see your kids. And we are losing far too many kids, and I agree with the good representative that was just here. We all want to work on partisan agreement on how to keep our kids safe. And this bill is a very big first step in trying to figure that out. Since the STEM shooting, I've gotten to be close friends with Kendrick's parents, and they want school safety as well. And I think that we are doing a huge disservice if we don't continue to make sure that our kids are safe and stop pointing the fingers at one individual thing and really focus on the mental health of these children. I could not wait to get to my boys and hug them. And every day, parents like all of us are scared for our children. We secure the Pepsi Center and the football stadiums better than we secure where our children go to school. We've got to do better, and I am so thankful to the bill sponsors for taking this very important first step. Let's make a pact now that our children will be safer in Colorado schools. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 241 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 59 aye, 4 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 241 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 220.
Senate Bill 220 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning the use of money previously allocated for public schools in connection therewith, reducing an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 220 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 220 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representatives Armagost, Bradley, Winter. Please close the machine. With 63 ayes, 0 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 220 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of the House Concurrent Resolution 1001.
House Concurrent Resolution 1001 by Representatives Weissman and Lynch, also Senators Gardner and Gonzalez, submitting to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning judicial discipline and in connection therewith, establishing an independent judicial discipline adjudicative board, setting standards for judicial review of a discipline case, and clarifying when discipline proceedings become public.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Concurrent Resolution 1001 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution 1001 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. This concurrent resolution does require a 2/3 vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 ayes, 0 no, 2 excused, House Concurrent Resolution 1001 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1019.
House Bill 1019 by Representatives Weissman and Lynch, also Senators Gardner and Gonzalez, concerning judicial discipline and in connection therewith, ensuring complainant rights in judicial discipline proceedings and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1019 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1019 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 ayes, 0 no, and 2 excused, House Bill 1019 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Judah, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1205.
House Bill 1205 by Representatives Lynch and Bacon, also Senators Gardner and Moreno, concerning the creation of the Office of the Judicial Discipline Ombudsman and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1205 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1205 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Please close the machine. With 53 aye, 10 no, and 2 excused, House Bill 1205 is adopted. Co-sponsors. please close the machine? Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 214.
Senate Bill 214 by Senator Zenzinger, also Representative Byrd, concerning the provision for payment of the expenses of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments of the state of Colorado and of its agencies and institutions for and during the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, except as otherwise noted.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 214 on third reading and final passage.
Assistant Minority Leader Puglisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to talk about the long bill because to me, the long bill deserves some attention. It is the largest policy document that we will vote on as a state legislators, and it's an incredibly important document. I'm sure we can't all agree to every single thing that are in the long bill. I do want to say I appreciate the work of our JBC members because it's a lot of work to go through line by line each of these items and appropriate and allocate in a way that you think is appropriate, and really just commend the work that's been done. Obviously, there's some things that we believe should be prioritized differently, and I think those are great conversations to have. Personally, and I'm a policy geek, so for me, like going through the long bill is actually fun, but I know for some people it's maybe not as fun and definitely not as exciting of conversations, but incredibly important work. I've always said, and just want to stay on the record, that I don't believe the state has a revenue problem. We just have to prioritize in accordance to what I believe is in the proper role of government. So making sure that we have public safety that's funded, transportation and infrastructure that's funded. One of the things we voted on today was to allocate money to capital construction projects. We have aging infrastructure at the state that needs to be funded, and so making sure that those funds are appropriated in the right ways are incredibly important. I will say, for me, and I know we have a lot of local government officials, it's sometimes hard to see the state taking money for programs like collective bargaining when there's unfunded mandates going down to counties that will have to implement those programs without any funds. And so I will say I had a hard time with that one, more from a fiscal perspective, because I know that counties will have to implement it. We see kind of what I want to talk about in terms of local control is the more control the state takes from counties, the more the budget is going to grow in order to fund those programs. And so I want us to be incredibly careful. I know I come up here and talk a lot about local control and making sure that state stays in its lane and doesn't take responsibilities from counties. But when you start seeing the state taking more and more of those responsibilities, what you're going to see is the budget having to grow because they're going to have to implement those policies. And that's something I fundamentally have some issues with. I'm really excited about the conversation about school finance because I think financing education, we have a constitutional duty to fund a public education system. And my kids are part of that public education system. And so I think it's incredibly important that we continue those conversations around education. I was excited to see some of the amendments that we were able to put on in terms of wildfire mitigation and wildlife crossings, and a lot of really good programs that are going to affect the state as a whole. And I think that being able to have those discussions in a really great bipartisan way is really the work that we should be doing here. And so I would be remiss if I would sit down and not have that conversation about how much good work we are doing here together and how this budget, again, I don't agree with some things in the budget. I would allocate things differently if I had that power. But I think having those conversations about what really is important to the state, what are the priorities, what type of work did our constituents send us here to do, and making sure that those priorities are funded. I feel very good about the votes that I made today on the things that I know my constituents sent me here to do. And we may not all agree on what those things are or how much they should be funded or prioritized, but I do think that we've done some good work here. And I think it's really important that the people of Colorado know that we are working together and having these conversations when it comes to budget and prioritization. Again, we might not always agree, but at least we're having those conversations. And to me, I would love to have more lengthy conversations, but I guess the JBC members get to have those fun conversations. But I really just wanted to talk about just making sure that as we go forward, we look especially for unfunded mandates on counties and municipalities, our local governments, because I'm very concerned about some of the direction legislation is going this session and what the fiscal impacts could be to the state if we continue down that road. So I just wanted to be able to put some of those thoughts on the record. Again, commend the hard work of the JBC members. I know you put in countless hours going through very finite numbers, but it's really important work, and I'm glad that we're here today having those conversations, bringing up the things that are most important as far as priorities for our constituents, making sure the proper role of government is funded, maybe not to the extent that I would personally like to see, but that it is being funded and that we are having conversations around where those priorities need to be. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the budget. And again, just commend the hard work of our JBC members and everyone in this room who took an interest in the different priorities for your constituents. It's important and good work. Thank you.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, like my colleague from Monument, know that there's a lot of work in this book, enormous amount of hours, details and specifics. But I need to explain why I'm going to vote no on the long bill. The first reason I'm going to vote no is because my constituents in eastern Colorado continue to ask me, why do we continue to spend more and more money? Why does the state budget grow by billions and billions of dollars every year? We don't want that growth. We don't want larger government. We don't want the burden of big government. I earlier spoke about the dairy fee. A small example, but a burden to eastern Colorado that comes from government. Now, I don't want to get into a philosophical conversation. I know we have our philosophical and political differences, which I respect, of all of my members in here. But you need to understand one thing. This budget, I believe in the 4 years I've been involved in this process, I believe has grown between $8 to $10 billion in 4 years. What does that mean in the next 4 years? How many more FTE do we add on? Does state government become the absolute largest employer of any entity in this state exponentially? As we grow government, thousands and thousands of employees? I don't know. I know that in eastern Colorado, that's not what Coloradoans, eastern Coloradoans want. We want less rules, less regulations, less government overreach, less government burdens. We want to write less checks to the state of Colorado and keep more of our money to invest in our communities and local government, in our local economies. There are things being debated right now that are that infringe so much on local government that it has scared every stakeholder organization that is representing local government, even the largest. They cannot believe it. If we continue to grow government this way, that will be an inevitability that cannot be stopped. That is one of the reasons that I stand here. But there's another reason, ladies and gentlemen. The Joint Budget Committee is such an important committee. And the people that are on the Joint Budget Committee are some of our best and brightest. That is arguably true, and I know that of my colleagues. I know that of my colleagues. I respect that of them. But here's where I have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. The legislature is supposed to be the entity that reserves the power of the purse. That is ours and ours alone. All of us in this chamber, in the upper chamber, and our JBC members, that is ours. We're the ones that are supposed to hold the checkbook, and we decide which checks get written. That, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we must protect. But there are three branches of government. One, we just passed legislation to try to rein in unanimously because of the transgressions of the judiciary, internal, abhorrent and disgusting behavior. Now, I know I'm going to grab that piece of wood, so I'm going to back out of that one. I'm going to go to a different place, Madam Speaker. I understand. Thank you for your leadership. I want to talk about how the JBC is not an autonomous body. I want to talk about how there's so much infringement on their autonomy from another branch that it can bring some members to tears. And they should shed no tears in their policy decisions or their objectives. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, talk to your leadership, because this is real stuff. I was very upset when I heard the story. I heard it may not be true, it may be fiction, it may be not quite accurate. But when we do not keep our autonomy, when we are not able to protect the funds and decide where they go without undue influence, and we are not the check and balance on another department, and we can't say no, and a hard, resounding no, then we have a problem. We have a problem in governance. We have a problem with what the Founding Fathers envisioned and our obligation to protect and be the custodians of the taxpayers' money. And it doesn't matter what any other department wants and says. It is our decision. You can talk to us, you can ask, but you can't tell us. You can't coerce us. You can't do anything like that. We'll have a conversation, then we unilaterally as the legislature should be deciding. That's the vision of government that my people in Eastern Colorado believe in. Because we were sent to represent the people, the tax-paying people. Earlier I spoke on a bill, and my esteemed colleague from Aurora said it's the will of the people. And she was right. She was right. Maybe not the will of the district and the people that I represent, but in aggregate, it's the will of the people. And I understand that as we debate and speak about these important issues. But the will of the people in this, the most important thing we do, if we did nothing else, this is one of the most important, if not the most important thing we do in this chamber, should be ours and ours alone. Without infringement, coercion, usurpation, or anything else by any other branch of government. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I cannot vote for the long bill. In all due respect to my hardworking colleagues, I know what they do. I ask them to be stronger. I ask them to do what they can to stand up against the overreach of other branches of government. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you for not gaveling me.
Representative Weinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Fellow colleagues, General 74, simply put, I stand up here in support of the long bill. Loveland does feel like we have been listened to. There is something in here guaranteed that none of us like. Guaranteed. there are things we like and do not like. Not funding government and not having ideas that have never been tested or tried before is not something that I think is a viable solution. So my hat is off to everyone in the JBC for putting such thought, for listening to Loveland specifically, and again, I rise today in support of this bill.
Representative Bottoms.
I request a no vote on this bill. And the main reason is because we're seeing, obviously, I'm a fiscal conservative, so I'm not wanting a lot of extra spending, which is very proliferate here. But one of the biggest things for me is that we're using fees. Fees are taxes. It's just another way to say taxes. But we're supposed to vote on taxes because of Tabor, and we're using fees to make an in-run around that many, many times. I don't think that's integrous when it comes to Tabor and what we're supposed to be doing as representatives. This has been laid out to us by the voters, and we're going around behind the voters and saying, well, we'll do it this way. And that includes fines and stuff like that, but mostly within this long bill, it includes the fees that are just another way to say taxes that we don't have to vote on. And so I can't vote a yes on this bill.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll also be a no vote now on the bill just because every dollar spent in this bill is a drag on the economy, and every dollar spent is extorted out of the populace. There's some things that are in there that are absolutely necessary, and they're part of good governance, but in general, I'd say most of them, there's a large chunk that is not. That we can continue to pass hundreds of bills every year that are enforced by law enforcement, that extracts the money from the population who's crying out under the weight. And we just add, each of us, we just add one more wafer-thin piece. It's just wafer-thin, one bill at a time, $1 million here, $100,000 there, and we just continue to pile these straws on top of our constituents. Hundreds of times every year while they're crying out from under the burden. And then we have the audacity to adjust everything in government for inflation. And then say, well, the inflation that the government has created requires us to take more money from the people who suffer from the inflation that the government created. It's unconscionable. The good intentions, they are truly the road to hell.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Members, in reviewing the long bill, the budget for the operations of our great state, $40.5 billion is a huge number. And as my colleague from Loveland said, there's things in here I like and there's things in here I dislike. I mean, out of $40.5 billion, we can all find something we like and we can all find something we dislike. I posted page 14 from our narrative booklet on social media and had some interesting comments from constituents. I think for the first time, many realized just how big, for example, HCPUF is at $15.4 billion in our budget. And I've often described Medicaid as really being the Pac-Man in the budget. And we have a scenario that's really shaping up as we're looking at our budget, that we have several areas that's starting to take over more and more of state spending and operations. And what that means is cutting into other areas of the budget as well. I do want to emphasize to the members of the JBC, we passed several amendments here. And I know that there's this tradition that you'll go to conference committee and strip everything off and then do what
what you think is best. I just want to make the appeal right here that you consider what the members of this chamber voted on and what the majority actually voted on, and go over with the Senate colleagues on the JBC and make your best arguments, because I would like to see much more of a compromise approach and not what we've seen in past years, because there were valuable amendments that we got passed, particularly J082. The ability to look out a little bit more for our rural hospitals, and $1 million in a grant fund is one of those. And I just want to make this personal plea out to you here today that, out of all the funds that we have here, this is something that if we can use these to help stave off some of our rural hospitals from just completely falling through the cracks, it's worth it. After all, we've given already, I believe, 5 and then another 5 million to Denver Health. It's worth it to definitely try to do everything we can to help our rural hospitals. And if it's in a grant fund where each hospital may receive a couple $100,000, that is enough. That's enough for the state not to have to be involved at a greater level down the road. So I just wanted to emphasize that small investments can have big payoffs. I do want to also hit on something in case our friends at CDOT are listening. There's some pretty big potholes on I-70 that needs to be addressed. And with all the money that I'm looking at $1.8 billion, that hopefully we can address some of these needs, because I know you have the resources. I'm looking at it right here. So that's a shout out to CDOT. Thank you, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Well, folks, I don't think it's going to be any surprise that I stand up here in support of this work product that was put together by the Joint Budget Committee. Would like to talk a little bit about why I believe this is a very, very responsible budget. It's a budget that was put together all within the constraints of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Our general fund, which is our main checking account for the state government, cannot grow past growth plus inflation. So it has been constrained in the general fund. There is times that it grows past growth plus inflation because there is some non-exempt cash funds that flow in to support certain programs that flow in through the general fund. But when that happens in our current environment, folks, it pushes the referendum C cap over that cap, and your Tabor refund increases. So many of the bills that we looked at today where there were cash funds coming in and they were exempt cash funds, that money flows back to the taxpayers in their Tabor refund, and there are Tabor refunds that are estimated and projected to be paid out here and into the future. Now, I'm not excited about creating all these cash funds, especially the exempt cash funds, but those are created by entities that cannot absorb more than 10% of the general fund in order to be exempt. Now, we talk about the growth of overall government, not the general fund, but the overall government here. Why did that happen? Because we had a pandemic, and there was a substantial amount of federal funds that flowed into Colorado as it did all the other states. They're called custodial funds. There was a small portion of that the governor allowed the legislature to administer. Most of it was administered through the executive branch of government. And if you went to the governor's office and asked him if we were successful in doing what we needed to do with those custodial funds, he's probably going to tell you yes, because he feels strongly that Colorado's economy during a crisis was stabilized and is in well positioned to try to continue to move forward. Everybody understands in this budget that there is a cliff effect, and a lot of that money went into the health agencies here to protect the health agencies during the COVID pandemic. They know that there is a cliff effect, and that's been acknowledged, and I believe that the Governor's Office of State Budget and Planning has acknowledged that there needs to be created a soft landing here in the next couple years, and they do have some strategies to do that, and they do have some backup strategies. I can only try to work with that office in order to make sure that we do have a soft landing and that our budget doesn't have a cliff effect where we have to make some very, very difficult decisions. But I want to talk about the process that we went through. And many of my colleagues have already spoken about how there's things in this budget you can love, and there's things in this budget you can hate. Well, I've been involved in a budgeting process for many years, and that's pretty typical of almost all budgets. But I would tell you this is a very responsible budget from the standpoint of the process that was utilized to put it together. And I commend the chairman, Senator Zenzinger, in her absence, Representative Byrd as the co-chair. When we went through this budgeting process, and they could tell that we had concerns about particular areas in the budget, the brakes were put on. We moved on to the next subject, and we had an opportunity to sit down, talk, work with JBC staff to get more information if necessary. Nobody was mulled over. When we came back, we were either had more information and we come together on how we were going to approach that particular issue, or there were times we simply had votes and we had the right to raise our hand and take a vote of opposition towards where it was headed. But I can also tell you that most of the time, it wasn't always just 4-2. There was 3. I mean, sometimes we were divided on both sides of issues, and it just wasn't one side constantly rowing the other, even though we know we have philosophical differences many times. So I think this is the most responsible budget, considering our current environment, that we could have put together in order to proceed to move forward. Are there challenges moving forward? You betcha. Are we pretty sure we know what those challenges are? Yes, we do. Are there strategies to work through those challenges going forward? I think we're well positioned with this budget to be able to do that. So, based on that, folks, this is a very responsible budget. This is a budget that survives within the constraints of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and we should be proud of this particular budget because we have protected the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and we have protected our citizens who support the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, that we will operate this government within its constraints, and if we have more revenue than we need, it gets returned to those citizens. And that is projected to happen at least in the next 2 or 3 years. I thank you for your time. I ask you to please vote in support of this budget, and I will be glad to continue the dialogue going forward. Thank you very much.
Representative Luck? Representative Sirota?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, it is said that a budget is a moral document, an expression of our values. And I am incredibly proud of the budget that we are adopting today. We are delivering a balanced budget in the face of inflation and many other economic forces, while lifting up the people who make our state run, that invests in our children and families, that prioritizes health and the environment, and builds in resiliency, preparing us for the challenges to come. We are ensuring that our state agencies have the expertise and capacity to represent Colorado in negotiations over water compacts. We are investing millions in our state water plan and local grant making. We're investing in our child care and preschool providers across Colorado, working hard on a successful launch of universal preschool coming this fall. We are honoring the tremendous work of our state employees and the administration who worked in partnership on a plan to invest in our state workforce so that we can recruit and retain the dedicated public servants who make our state run. The 3% community provider rate increase was widely celebrated across the state, boosting the work done through medical care, child care assistance, and early interventions, just to name a few of those dedicated providers. We're raising contractor rates in the Judicial Department for our incredibly hardworking attorneys and non-attorneys alike, in the Office of the State Public Defenders, the Office of the Alternate Defense Counsel, the Office of the Child's Representative, and the Respondent Parents Council. We're making significant investments in our foster youth, in special education, our higher education institutions across Colorado. We're increasing total program funding by $485 million in our public K-12 schools. We hope that our work on facility schools will prove to be transformational for Colorado students, as all of our children deserve access to quality public education services. We're eliminating co-pays for Health First Colorado, which will be felt as a reimbursement increase for our medical providers and make health care more accessible for our Medicaid consumers. I could go on and on and on about all the good this budget will do for the people of Colorado. But I also will just, I think, leave it there and lift up our nonpartisan and bipartisan collaboration that went into the months of toil on the creation of this budget. I'm so grateful for the staff and my colleagues that I got to work with for months and months on end, as we all really dug deep into the details that were brought to us to bring you this incredible document today that I think everyone can find something to lift up and to celebrate, that everyone in the chamber had the opportunity to make their imprint on. And I thank you all for the good collaboration, the incredible hard work together to get us to this, I think, this budget that we can all be proud of.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, this is a moral document. A very long moral document, and I rise in opposition to what it says. Not because I don't think that people should be provided for, cared about, educated, but because I am of the opinion that there should be multiple institutions in our social order. And this budget, year over year, continues to say to the people of Colorado that there should be one, that power should be centralized into one of those social institutions, the government. The government is your savior. The government is here to provide for all that you need. The government is here to take from the whole and give out to some. The government is here to problem solve every single one of the issues that you face. Now, I don't want people to have unnecessary suffering. I don't want them to have issues in their lives. And yet, they will, always. There will always be problems. And what I strongly believe is that we are a better people when we allow for those other social institutions to step up and fill gaps. Take the Office of Public Guardianship as an example. That particular office was created because we have individuals who are forgotten, who are abandoned, who are not cared about in their communities. And the government said, we need to help these ones. Now, I believe those ones need to be helped. But the government can only do so much. They can only have so many touches with these individuals. They can only provide so many supports. And yet when the government steps in, other groups say, I don't need to worry about that. They've got it covered. And they move along. And then we begin to cultivate communities that are increasingly selfish and self-focused, narcissistic. It used to be that we each had a responsibility to stop along the side of the road when folks were stranded. Now many of us probably think to ourselves, they have a phone. There are other people here who can help. No, I don't need to waste my time stopping and checking in on them. That does not a good community make. This budget continues to fund those solutions. And yet, I stand opposed to many of those solutions because I would rather open the door for people to come alongside each other. Again, take the Office of Public Guardianship. My sense is it would be a better model if we opened the door so that people could figure out who those individuals are in their communities, in their hospitals and hospices and other places. And they could come alongside, and they could adopt those people into their families. I've raised this question amongst many districts around this state over the interim, and many of them have said, sign us up. We're happy to come alongside. We're happy to care about more than just their particular legal or decision-making needs. We're happy to help them and invite them to Christmas dinner for 4th of July, invite them into our home. Those are the types of programs that I wish we would open the door for, so that we had a community that didn't require us to take their money and give it, that they were already just a charitable bunch. Historically, it was charities who did our health care. Around the New Deal time, the government stepped in. And now we have a huge percentage of our budget that goes to health care. People are burdened by those costs because we took it out of the hands of folks and we said, oh, we got this. And they said, fine, we'll do something else. And more became less and less worried about the things that the government was taking care of. I see that as detrimental and grievous. I want communities that thrive, that care about each other, that problem solve with each other in the unique situation that they each have. That look around and say, I see that person in need, or I see how I could improve this, or I see how I could lift that person up. And we, as a government, cultivate that and push them in that direction, instead of just taking it from them and say, no worries, we'll take care of it for you. People raise to the expectations you set. I had really strong and high expectations in my classroom, and kids pushed back on me for months. And when they started to actually approach those expectations, they started to get excited. And I had students who said to me, Ms. Luck, why can't we read more tonight? Why can't you assign more reading? Because we want to get to these other chapters. And because of the way my structure and my classroom worked, they couldn't read ahead because it would actually confuse some things that they were responsible for doing. And by the end of that year, they loved learning and they loved caring about each other. I think it's time that we set higher expectations for our people. We stop spending their money in the ways we think best, and we encourage them to start taking care of themselves. For that reason, I rise in opposition to this moral document, because I don't think it actually advances the good.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is what we're really supposed to do here. This is the hard work. And I remember when I first considered running for office, I thought, man, I tell you what, if you're going to go down to the legislature, you got to be on the JBC, because that's the real important job. And then I realized how much work it is, and that it's not a part-time job, and that there would be less belt buckles in this state and in this country. And I said, okay, let's just make sure we put the best and the brightest on it. And I think we did that this year. Thank you for, through this process, letting us be heard with some concessions that we got, and some of our voice being heard on this, and that doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate that. We need more of that here. We need more working together, more seeing each other's viewpoints. But we'll take what we can get. Thank you for your consideration on that. With all that being said, this is a complex document, and Madam Speaker, I would respectfully ask that we read our constitutions this weekend and have a long weekend.
My heart is beating fast. Thank you, Minority Leader. Representative Byrd.
Well, I don't know how I follow that. Madam Speaker, it is an honor to serve with you and such a privilege to have served this body as a member of the Joint Budget Committee this year. I want to begin my remarks by thanking every one of you in this chamber for our robust discussion and dialogue. And I couldn't agree with Minority Leader Lynch more when we talk about this being the hard work that we were all sent here to do. One of our colleagues who serves in the Senate had a really good comment that gave me lots to think about. That, you know, we hear from lots of departments, and you've heard us talk about this, departments and agencies and other groups that come and present to the Joint Budget Committee. We've been hearing from them for months, and this last week we had the opportunity to hear from our colleagues and hear what was important to you. And I want you to know I take that seriously. It matters to me what you want. We all come from different districts. We're not all the same. And what ultimately ends up here needs to serve all of us. And it doesn't matter what part of the state you live in. So that is what we are striving to do. I also want to thank both of my colleagues who I have spent the last 5 months working with, and let them know I have learned more than I can imagine from their perspectives and the contributions that we all have made to this. And do want to say this document is indeed an expression of values. After all, at the end of the day, we invest in the things that we care about. And based upon what's in our budget, our state clearly cares about people. We begin with this budget, as has been mentioned, by investing in people's health. Our budget that we're voting on in just a few minutes increases payments to medical providers who care for our most vulnerable. It eliminates an unrealistic $1,500 cap on the value of dental services that lower-income people can receive. Additionally, it includes resources to improve Colorado's outreach to increase routine immunization rates, because we don't want another pandemic that destroys lives and livelihoods. We want to be alert to the next pandemic or epidemic. So this budget invests in strategies to identify threats to public health. But it's not enough to just make sure that we're all healthy. Our state is also a place of opportunity. And that's why this budget, members, invests in education. To get the best start in life, each child should have access to a high-quality public education. And that starts with preschool. This budget makes it a reality that every Colorado child will get at least 15 hours of tuition-free preschool per week in the year before they go to kindergarten. That's remarkable. After that, we make progress on funding our K-12 public schools by increasing funding by $900 per student this year. This budget also keeps the doors of opportunity open for people after high school by making sure that our colleges and universities are accessible to all of us, not just those whose families can afford it. To that end, our budget increases Colorado's investment in higher education and student financial aid by over 11%. We do all of this because we know that education opens doors and changes lives. Colorado is a place where opportunity needs to exist for each and every one of us, so we invest. This budget also invests to keep our community safe. Some threats come from crime, and we must be ready. To address these concerns, our budget improves compensation for our state troopers. It increases support for child abuse investigations and commits additional resources to implement a domestic extremism prevention program. Importantly, the budget provides additional staff to investigate and prosecute organized retail crime. Some threats come from wildfire and other natural disasters. For this reason, our budget includes strategic investment in wildfire prevention, mitigation, and suppression. It also expands our capacity to assist local agencies with identifying risk factors unique to their communities and helping them to prepare for the next emergency. Importantly, members, another threat is coming from an increasingly dry climate. The climate has become drier and population growth has placed additional demands upon our scarce water resources. There is a heightened need for Colorado to proactively assert and defend our state's rights to our fair share of the region's water resources. For this reason, the budget funds additional staff to guarantee expert representation for our state in all water negotiations, litigation, and resource management. Importantly, members, we must do all that we can to invest in water infrastructure to, among other things, ensure that we have adequate capacity to store water, especially when it can't be stored as snow. Our budget invests in this infrastructure and enables us to draw down additional federal dollars that will multiply our efforts here in Colorado. In addition to defending our water rights, we know that conservation must be a part of the solution. And to that end, this budget invests in developing new water conservation techniques and provides help for Colorado farmers and ranchers to adapt and modify their practices so they can continue to thrive in a changing and drier environment. Over the last 5 months, the members of the Joint Budget Committee have been working in a collaborative, bipartisan fashion, and I want to thank my colleague from Adams and many other counties for his comments to this point, because we did work hard to make sure that when members had concerns, we took the time to dig deep and find out whether there was a third way to move forward that would buy consensus amongst all of us. We each contributed a variety of perspectives to prepare this constitutionally required balanced budget. I am pleased to share with you that your JBC members had a common goal, and that was to make sure that our budget would be a collection of smart, targeted investments to make your government work and deliver upon the things that our constituents expect. I believe that we have succeeded, and I hope that you will join me in supporting Senate Bill 214.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 214 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Members, not while we're voting, thank you. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Epps. Please close the machine. With 47 aye, 16 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 214 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representatives Velasco and Judah co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Members, we have concluded third reading for the day. Any additional announcements? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Friday, April 6th at 7 a.m. I'm just kidding. Gotcha. Let me say that again. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Monday, April 10th.
Seeing nothing but applause, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until Monday, April 10th. Madam Majority Leader. Oh, we have an announcement. Representative McLaughlin.
Education Committee, while you were sitting there, we were making all kinds of movements on your behalf. So today, the order has changed a little bit for bills. It'll go 1109, 070004, and then 061 at the end. And next Monday, we will be having all of our bills. So we will be listening to Senate Bill 99, House Bill 1261, 1262, 1263, and 1239. So that we will not be listening to bills on the 12th and 13th. Thank you very much.
Representative Sirota.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appropriations Committee members, we will be meeting on Monday, April 10th at 9 a.m. in the Old State Library to hear the 13 bills that are listed in your calendar and Senate Bill 250.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Change your plans on Monday, the 10th. Agriculture, Water, Natural Resources will not be meeting, but we will be meeting on Thursday upon adjournment on the 13th and hopefully be hearing all 4 bills that were scheduled for Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further announcements, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.